So we're doing kind of like a chatty, witchy video today. I'm gonna have to record this in a few different time frames, so you'll have to bear with me on that, guys. It won't all be seamlessly just one take, but I wanted to talk about a few things today. I've had a lot of people ask me this recently, and so I just figured I would get it over with at the start of the video so that if you have been wondering this, you know what I do. So a lot of you guys ask when my hair is red. This is unrelated to spirituality and witchcraft, I should say. But it is part of the aesthetic. So a lot of you have said, oh my God, how do you get your hair the red color it is? I'm actually also going to talk about when I have my hair black, what I use for that too. So when my hair is, I do all of my hair stuff myself. I cut my hair myself and I dye my hair myself. I've been dyeing my hair since I was 19. It's just a means of self-expression for me. And I have in my, actually in my natal chart, there's a lot of dichotomy going on. And I'm a Taurus with a great deal of Scorpio, and I have a lot of that kind of push and pull energy. So I guess it kind of makes sense that as far as my style goes, which I define myself, I mean, if I had to define my style, I don't think anyone has to define their style, but I mean, I'm definitely more trad goth, romantic goth. But as far as my hair goes, I usually have red hair or black hair. And I just am going to break that process down for those of you who have asked, so I can just have one area to send everyone when they ask these questions. I lighten my hair when I go from black to red. I don't have to lighten my hair when I go from red to black. The black is all-encompassing, excuse me, and just takes over the whole thing. But when I'm going red, I do have to lighten my hair. I do not use bleach. I use a hair color remover product, which is basically a stripping agent. And so the stripping agent literally strips the color out of your hair. If you just do bleach right away, you're doing a huge amount of damage on your hair, and it's not really going to lighten the way that it will if you've used a stripping agent first. So I use L'Oreal's hair color remover. You have to be very aware when you do this stuff, guys, that you are damaging your hair pretty significantly. So there's going to be, hair doesn't fall out of your head from bleaching, it literally breaks off. So from bleaching or lightening or any kind of over processing, your hair will break off. It doesn't fall out of your head, it breaks off. So you have to be aware of your hair's health before you do that. And I would say, and I'm not recommending any of this, like full disclaimer, everybody, you do what you do and that's on you. So I lighten my hair in between with the hair color remover. I really don't do a lot of heat styling on my hair, hardly ever anymore. So that makes a big difference. I'm not adding more damage onto my hair on a daily basis. But I do that hair color remover at least once, if not twice a year, just to be really honest with everyone. I mean, you guys see the videos, I change my hair color a lot. I've done it since I was 19. I've gone between red and black, the same products, for basically well over a decade. Oh my God, almost 2 decades. That's how old I am. So if you are wondering, yeah, I do it all myself. I use a lightener in between. I do not bleach my hair. Only if I'm going for a really super, super light red will I ever bleach my hair in the in-between process. So I use L'Oreal Feria number 68. It's Ruby Rush. And it's called R68, I believe, if you go to get it at the store. And that's the color red that I use. So I strip my hair, and then when I'm going to go from black to red, and then I put the L'Oreal Feria in after I strip my hair. I use Manic Panic's Pillar Box Red to kick the red color up and to allow myself to go longer in between permanent dye. So Feria is a permanent dye, which is more damaging to your hair, but the results last longer. Manic Panic is a semi-permanent vegetable-based dye. It does have, obviously, a lot of pigment in it, but it is vegan. And so the Manic Panic will let the red stay red for longer in between dyeing my roots. So that is what I use for the red. It's just those two things. But I will be really upfront with you guys. An important part of keeping your hair as healthy as possible for as long as possible is to not wash it every day with shampoo and conditioner. You can wet your hair every day, and especially when it's red, the red hair dye molecule is like the biggest of them all. So it ends up like attaching to the hair follicle for the longest, but it also fades the fastest. So it's the hardest to get out of your hair, of the hair shaft of your actual hair, and it fades the fastest. So especially if you see my videos and you want to go the same color red I am, you have to be aware that you cannot use shampoo every day. You have to wash your hair as little as possible. I try to shampoo my hair only once a week. This is actually a lot better for your hair because it lets the natural oils in your scalp penetrate not just at the scalp level, but all the way down to the ends. So wash your hair as little as possible. Use something like Manic Panic to allow the red to stay bright and not fade out super fast. Those would be my recommendations for you. So again, in case you were wondering, it's L'Oreal Feria number R68 Ruby Rush Rich Auburn True Red is the red that I use, with Manic Panic's Pillar Box Red to kick the red up in between permanent dyeing, which I do honestly every 4 weeks. When I dye my hair black, I use L'Oreal Feria's Starry Night number 21. It's kind of iconic in the goth realm because it is a really, really beautiful blue-black. And I do use Manic Panic's, they do like a midnight blue color, which I can't remember the name of right now. But I will use that to kick the blue up in between. So it's more of that blue-black, so it's not like a natural-looking black. If you're going to dye your hair black, I don't think you're going for a natural look anyhow. So I like that blue-black, that kind of, well, very goth, vampire blue-black tone. So I use that darker Manic Panic. It might be called Midnight Blue. I'll put the link to it below on Amazon if you're interested in using any of those products. But yeah, that's what I use for my hair color. I've had so many people ask me about it, and I do it all myself. I've always been that way. I was a salon coordinator in my very early 20s at a salon, and my hair was more damaged having professionals play with it all the time and change my hair color constantly than it's ever been dyeing my hair myself. So I would rather save money, and I know what I'm doing. And if I fuck something up, that's on me. I'm not like, I didn't spend $300 and have my hair fucked up. So yes, that's what I use for hair dye. And yeah, that's the drill there. So for the rest, now to get into like actual usual channel content, I'm going to be showing you guys 2 decks that I just received recently from some lovely tarot friends that I'm like really in love with. And so I wanted to start with the Mystical Manga Tarot today. So I have been been on the fence about the Mystical Manga Tarot for so long. I've had it in my cart on Amazon repeatedly and like been about to pull the trigger and then not 100% sure, because I really didn't want like a knockoff, kind of phoned in Rider-Waite-Smith knockoff version of the manga tarot. I actually am someone who really loves certain styles of anime. As far as artistically, many of you know that I love to color, and I have a lot of different anime or manga coloring books that I really, really love and enjoy the artwork done by the artists. And so I really wanted something that created that feeling of like taking you to a different place and alternate realms. So I was like on the fence for a really long time about it. And then one of my very dear tarot friends, we were having a conversation recently, and she said, I'm not really using the deck. I would love to send you my copy, which I'm so thankful for because I am in love with this deck. So this is just a reveal. I'm not going to do a review. I've only been working with her for like about a week now almost, so I don't want to in any way, I'm not ready to talk about her set personality yet, but she is really beautiful. And um, gorgeous and more than I could have than I could have hoped for. And it's one of those things where you're kicking yourself like, why the heck did I take so long to, like, why was this deck not in my life sooner? And of course, like, everything is, everything is on divine timing anyhow. But I'm really, really super thankful to have this deck right now. And I'm a Taurus, as many of you guys know. I think I said that just a few minutes ago, so I'm sorry about that. But this is my birthday season too, so I feel like both of these decks coming into my life were kind of like my special little birthday treat. So I'm super, super loving this deck. She has a very precocious, youthful feel, but like I said, she's very transportive. She's like, she takes you to a different place, which when we're doing personal work for ourselves and we're working in that realm of myth, that can actually be really, really beneficial and super helpful and quite profound in journaling and meditation and journeying. So this is one of those decks that, at least for me, I feel like I'm really going to get a lot out of journeying with her, and then, journaling about what comes up from the cards. I love this Knight of Cups. Isn't he beautiful? Yeah, he's so gorgeous. So anyhow, yeah, this is the backing for the mystical manga. The guidebook is by Barbara Moore. Many of you know I think quite highly of Barbara Moore and her guidebooks. I think especially if you're new to tarot, she provides you with a wealth of information without bombarding you. And so it is, I have not read the guidebook yet, which is also why I'm not going to do a review yet, but I definitely feel from a quick perusal of the guidebook that it's a worthy guidebook. It's definitely not a phoned in guidebook at all. So this is the Mystical Manga Tarot. Like, I love this backing too. Isn't that gorgeous? So yeah, so I'm very, very much just like in lust, and we're at the very beginning stages of our relationship together, clearly, because that's like, I can't get enough. So sip of tea. Okay, so the other deck that I wanted to just reveal in Witchy Chat is the Children of Letha, the Black Edition. This one of my lovely tarot friends gifted to me recently as well too. And I am so, okay, first of all, again, this is just a reveal, not a review. I'm still getting to know her. I've only had her since Monday, and it's Thursday as I'm recording now. The cardstock is my very, very favorite. It's just like True Black Tarot's cardstock. It's that lush, like matte, but it feels suede. It's just delicious. Like, I want all my decks to feel like this. I'm such a sensory person, and this is just so yummy. So anyhow, this is the Children of Letha. I'm going to show you some of the imagery while I'm talking. I have to spend more time, not with the introduction in the guidebook, but with the card meanings, because the artist has a poem with the card meanings, and I want to get more acquainted with that before I step into a review. Also, I have not read for anyone else with either of these decks. So I want to spend some time really, connecting in with the poetry in regards to the card draws. And I am very much looking forward to getting a chance to do that over the next few weeks. And then I think I can speak more to, final feelings on the deck if you're on the fence about purchasing the deck. But the imagery is really what pulled me in. And I think my friend knew this too, like, it's one that I probably wouldn't have invested in if I had been, if it was just up to me. But because it was gifted to me, the artwork is very compelling. And again, it's transportational, much like mystical manga. It steps into that fairy tale realm, but it's really, I'm really just sitting with the imagery itself and feeling very much drawn to, like, sitting with this kind of fairy tale yet alternate realm feeling energy. And there's a lot in the guidebook, at least the introduction, about kind of reconciling the world of man and the world of spirit. and like beast versus man and that type of energy. And so I am very much looking forward to spending time with kind of that polarity and how that plays out in regards to daily draws and personal spreads in that way. So I'll show you a few more cards from there. So, and I'll do one more because I really like this imagery, this Nine of Swords. Isn't that beautiful? So this kind of world of animal, worlds of man energy that's represented here in the Children of Letha, it's a fresh take. It's not that this hasn't been explored, or that we aren't really looking at that in almost all of our kind of meditative journey work. But I thought the way that the artist was speaking to this was something that I could kind of find a new way into as a reader as well for myself. And so that felt really exciting for me. So this is the Children of Letha Tarot. Very much looking forward to getting to know her. And I will have a full review on the channel also coming in the very near future once I feel like I have a handle on her. And as I said, I do want to read the poetry for each card because I do feel that that's important for me to have connected with in order to speak to the personality of the deck. Okay, let me see here. Did I get like everything as far as cards go that I was going to show and talk about all the things? And I talked about my hair because I've had so many questions about that recently. Yeah, I think I got everything. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about parenting on alternative paths, because some of you had said in the last video, like not a lot of people are really talk about that in the community. And I realized that that's very accurate. It isn't something that comes up a lot. And of course, we all are, making our own choices about what feels right for us. Especially when it comes to parenting, it's something that you really have to examine your ethics on in daily life, insofar as the type of parenting you want to offer to your child, and especially when it comes to spirituality, what kind of experience you want to give your child. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, not for too long because I know this video is already pretty long, but I did want to speak to that because, you guys are right. It's something that comes up that often in the community. But I think when we as readers look at our ethics as readers, we can also apply that to how we choose to parent as people on alternative pagan paths or left-hand paths or dark paths. Looking at, how the choices we're making in regards to that, very similarly to when we read, what kind of questions are we going to ask of the cards, or what are we not okay with when we read, or what feels good for us. And I would say, I think the beautiful piece about stepping onto an alternative path is that typically those of us who choose to be parents or who are parents on this path, because we're choosing an alternative path spiritually for ourselves, we're very often wanting to give our children the freedom to make their own choices in regards to their spirituality. And I know for me, due to the very stringent cult childhood I had, being raised in that type of religious cult atmosphere, the last thing as a parent that I want to share or provide is stringent spiritual or religious beliefs for my child. I want him to feel empowered to explore spiritually whatever he feels called to, and to feel into for himself whatever deity needs to look like for him. That he has that freedom to make those choices, and it hasn't been about me or another authority figure in his life telling him what he has to believe or what is right versus wrong. And that being said, I found as a parent over the years things like grace, kindness, compassion, healthy boundaries. Those are things that I really want to, as a parent, help him be affirmed in embracing as aspects or qualities within himself, or things that he wants to share with others. But for me, it's been very important as a parent not to pass down doctrine or dogma or say he has to believe in multiple deity because I do. Or that he has to follow a certain spiritual path because I do. Now, of course, being raised in my house, in my home, he's exposed to certainly tarot, oracle decks. Like, he makes his own cards in his little free time for himself. We're a very artistic, creative household, and he spends a lot of time exploring that side of himself and exploring like how he feels connection through artistic, musical, creative expression. So that's something that is definitely, I think he feels, that's definitely a part of his path at this time because he is exposed to that in my house. No different than he listens to like Bauhaus more than he's heard country music in this house, if you know what I mean. So, that he's definitely been more exposed to. But he definitely also has the freedom to explore spirituality for himself, and that's been something that's been very important for me to give him that freedom with. Even things that feel confronting for me, like, he has expressed that he does believe in a God that is male at this point in time in his life. And that, not that that's the only entity, but that's something that he does feel comforted by. So I have had to like release my own attachment to that kind of Christian view. Like, my mind automatically goes right to that place, and like I want to pump the brakes, but that's not my path, that's his. And so giving him that freedom has been very important. One of the other things that you all mentioned in some of the comments on the last Witchy video too, I think it was the last Witchy one, it might have been the one before, is that people don't really talk about how much less personal time you have for yourself as a parent as well. And I'm always very honest, especially because I'm a single parent, I'm a full-time single parent. It's the time to myself for spiritual practice is very limited. And so what I have found helpful over the years is having multiple altars in the home. So I have an altar in each room, except for my son's room. He has his own setup in his room. I don't bring my altar into his space. But, I have an altar. I have a kitchen altar. I have an altar in the living area, what we would typically in America call the living room. And then in my bedroom, obviously, I have an altar as well. Those are ways in which, no matter how busy my day is, even if I have to do remote learning or, if I'm in full-on mom mode all day, having the altar there to connect to, even if I'm just walking by it, or if all I can do is just see my deck of cards on the altar and maybe just pull a card as I walk by, that's been really, really important for me in staying connected to my spirituality throughout my days. So if you are someone who really has very, very limited time as a parent, especially if your children are young, I completely understand and remember the shock of going from like unlimited time in my free time to explore my spirituality to like maybe 2 minutes in a day, especially when they're little. So if you find yourself in that situation, I do really, I have for myself found it very, very important to have multiple altars, or a sacred space if you choose to call it that, not an altar. That's made a really big difference for me because I can connect in, even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just to look at that representation of this specific element or deity on the altar and know that they're with me, and then just feel a message from them, feel supported by them. And I always have decks out on my altars so that I can just draw really quick for myself. I don't just read tarot for a living. Tarot is my life, like in all ways. So being able to just pull out a tarot deck really quickly and draw a card has made a huge difference for me in having very limited time and space as a parent. So, if that's something you're struggling with, setting up some type of sacred space for yourself as a touchstone that you can come into contact with every day, even just as you're walking by it, is something that you may find very helpful. The other thing that I did address in that video is a daily draw, which some days, if it can only be just that you walked by the altar and pulled a tarot card and had even just a moment to look at it, that's winning. But doing a daily draw, trying to stay with that practice has always makes a really big difference for me. And if it's a time when I'm really feeling exhausted as a parent, or like at my wit's end, or maybe, frustrated or not sure if I'm doing my best work as a parent, working with an oracle deck can be very helpful in those situations too, like an Alana Fairchild deck or a Lucy Cavendish deck, something that's going to like provide you affirmation and support, as well as show you where you might want to pump the brakes or accelerate in regards to those aspects of your life. So I have found oracle decks like that, especially since becoming a parent, to be very helpful in helping me not to give up while still giving me clarity, especially on the big picture, because I think as parents, like remembering that the day to day can feel overwhelming, but if you can go back to your big picture in those moments, and oracle decks definitely do help with that big picture type of feel, that can really help you to like move through even the most exhausting of times. So yeah, as far as parenting goes, and just some further thoughts on that, like I love that those of us on left-hand paths or alternative pagan paths, or like wherever we are on our spiritual journey, when we give our child the freedom to have their own spiritual experience, whatever that may look like, I think that's like one of the grooviest things ever. I love that about those of us who are on this path. And as far as crafting or creating sacred space for yourself, or a way to feel connected with your spiritual path while you're in the minutia, the day-to-day, the exhausting, sometimes grueling parts of parenting, again, having a touchstone for yourself, whether that's an altar or a talisman, or you carry a deck in your purse or your bag so that you can, look, even just like looking at card backing sometimes can help me, because it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Like this is a part of me too. I'm not just dealing with this thing. Like there's a bigger picture here too. All of those things I have found very helpful over the years, but I'm a very visual energy as well. The other thing that I would say is encouraging your child's intuition and psychic ability is also something that's really cool about walking a path that embraces that side of yourself. And I can say, being in this as a parent, having offered Vincent that freedom from birth in regards to his gifts, like watching how psychic he is sometimes is flooring. And it's like, oh my gosh, we all really do come in with this connection. And when it's not shut down, it's really cool to see how organic that process is for a child. It's like very much like that, and then they go back to being a kid. Like they're not, now I'm going to step into my psychic energy. Like he will literally just say things sometimes, and that he's accessing something else, and then he goes right back to being an 8-year-old kid. And that's such a gift to get a chance to witness, and an affirmation that we do come in with this ability to experience connection to not just the physical things around us, but the etheric, the energetic, the spiritual as well. So if you're a parent and you're getting a chance to watch that, hopefully it affirms for you that the more you can kind of just allow yourself to trust that connection, you can also open up even more to that experience too. So yes, this is today's witchy chat. Everything from hair color to tarot to parenting. Hopefully, if you stuck along for the ride this long, you found this video interesting. As always, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of my journey, and I'm sending you much love and many blessings. I will see you in the next video, guys. Bye.